At a Berlin supermarket, a cashier scans a 1-liter bottle of water. The till shows 2 lines, 0.89 euros for the water and 0.25 euros for the container. The shopper pays both. 2 hours later, the water is gone. The bottle is empty. But that empty bottle is not worthless. She walks to a reverse vending machine near the store entrance. The machine pulls the bottle inside, spins it under a red laser, verifies the barcode, and crushes it. A voucher prints. The shopper takes it to the register and receives 25 cents. The drink had a price. Now the packaging has a price. Again. Not because the bottle is useful, not because anyone wants it, because German law says so. This is the quiet engine of Germany's bottle deposit system. An empty disposable container retains a legally created cash value after the beverage itself is gone. A bottle bought in a German supermarket is not just a container. It is a token for 25 cents, redeemable only if it comes back. And the system that makes this work is not a recycling campaign. It is a national clearing architecture built around a mandatory deposit, a standardized mark, retailer obligations, and machines that count.
The paradox is sharp. Most countries treat an empty bottle as waste. Germany treats it as a debt that the market must repay. That debt is 25 cents. And for millions of bottles every day, the machine is the teller. A juice carton sits next to it in the bin. It has no deposit logo. The machine rejects it. The bottle is different. The law draws a line through the beverage aisle, and that line is worth exactly 25 cents. The machine does not thank her. It does not lecture about the planet. It simply prints a number. In that moment, the bottle's value flips from a beverage container to a financial claim. This is the first act of a system that turns packaging into a bearer instrument. The cashier does not keep the 25 cents. The store does not keep the 25 cents. The deposit has already begun to move through a network the shopper will never see.
The line was not drawn for aesthetics. In the early 1990s, Germany watched its refillable bottle culture erode. Lightweight plastic and aluminum cans spread through supermarkets. Reusable bottles, washed and refilled dozens of times, lost market share. The Packaging Ordinance of 1991 had set ambitious quotas for refillable beverage packaging, but quotas are not self-enforcing. By the late 1990s, the share of drinks sold in refillables slipped below the legal threshold. That triggered the machinery. In 2003, Germany introduced a mandatory deposit on many single-use beverage containers. The amount was 25 cents. It has remained 25 cents ever since. The first years were chaos. A bottle bought in one supermarket chain could be refused at another. Return rules varied by brand, by store, by region. Consumers carried empties across town only to be told no. The deposit looked less like a market and more like a trap. Then came the clearinghouse. In 2005, Deutsche Pfandsystem GmbH, DPG, was created to run a centralized deposit clearing system for single-use containers. DPG does not make bottles. It does not collect them. It runs the ledger.
Producers register every eligible container, then place a deposit obligation on each unit. Retailers pay the deposit upstream when they buy filled packaging. Consumers pay the retailer at checkout. When an empty bottle is returned, the retailer refunds the 25 cents and claims the money back through clearing. If the bottle is bought at Edeka and returned at Lidl, clearing moves the credit from one account to another. The bottle itself becomes irrelevant to the cash. The barcode is the contract. This is the blind spot most people miss. The deposit is not held by the government. It is not a tax. It is a private, legally mandated circulation of credits. The 25 cents does not belong to anyone until the bottle is returned, or not. But the system does not cover every bottle. This is where the law gets precise. The mandatory 25-cent deposit applies only to covered single-use beverage packaging. Reusable containers follow different deposit amounts, usually 8 or 15 cents, set by industry and tied to bottle pools. Wine, spirits, and some niche categories sit outside. The boundary shifted again on 1 January 2024, when the deposit obligation expanded to include more containers, closing another loophole. So when a German shopper sees a DPG logo on a plastic bottle or can, that mark is not decoration. It is a legal flag that says
This object carries a 25-cent debt, and any participating retailer must take it back. Across the country, reverse vending machines stand in supermarket entrances, wired to DPG's registry. The result is a return market with no charity. A bottle can be returned at any store that sells deposit beverages, regardless of where it was bought. This interoperability is not natural, it is engineered. DPG's clearing rules say a retailer that accepts a bottle has a claim on the deposit paid earlier in the chain. The system works because every link is forced to participate. Producers must register, retailers must take back, consumers must pay and can reclaim. That is not a recycling habit. That is a payment rail for empty packaging. The machine network is not decoration. It is the sensor layer for the clearing system. Without a return scan, no refund can be claimed. The deposit lives on a barcode, not on the physical container.
This is not an environmental policy in the sentimental sense. It is a property rule. The deposit attaches to the packaging, not to the drink. The drink may be consumed in minutes. The obligation survives until the bottle is scanned. That survival is what makes the German deposit system unlike a bottle tax. A tax is paid and gone. A deposit is paid and remembered.
Deutsche Pfandsystem GmbH occupies a nondescript office, but its ledger touches almost every convenience store in Germany. It employs no bottle sorters. It owns no fleet of trucks. Its asset is a database of approved single-use beverage containers. Every bottle of cola, every can of sparkling water, every plastic iced tea in scope carries a registration number. Producers must submit label designs, barcodes, and material data before the first unit reaches a shelf. DPG verifies that the packaging is deposit eligible and assigns a deposit code. If a producer fails to register, its bottles are not legal to sell as deposit containers. The deposit machine will reject them. This gives DPG a strange kind of power. It is not a regulator, but a private clearinghouse with a legal mandate. Retailers feel that power at the entrance. Any store over 200 square meters that sells deposit beverages must take back empty single-use containers of the same material, regardless of brand. A small kiosk below that threshold can restrict returns to the brands it sells. For large supermarkets, there is no such escape.
A customer can walk in with a bag of empties from a competitor and demand 25 cents per container. The machine must pay. The store then submits the scan data to DPG and recovers the deposit. This is why retailers install high-speed reverse vending machines. Manual counting would collapse under the volume. The machines read the DPG logo, scan the barcode, check shape and weight, and reject anything not in the registry. A bottle bought in Poland with no DPG mark slides in and slides out, worthless. The machine crushes accepted bottles, reducing transport costs. But the machine also produces data. Every scan is a transaction record. Reverse vending machine manufacturers compete on throughput, fraud detection, and uptime. A jammed machine during Saturday shopping means a queue of customers holding empties and losing patience. The store manager hates the machine but needs it. Consumers split. Some redeem every bottle. The 25 cents adds up. A family that drinks 2 bottles a day collects over 180 euros a year. Others cannot be bothered. They leave bottles on park benches or next to bins. That creates a secondary economy.
In Berlin, Hamburg, and Cologne, collectors with bags and carts harvest abandoned deposit bottles. They are not scavengers in the old sense. They are arbitrageurs of a legal price floor. Each bottle they find is a 25-cent coupon. The deposit has created a class of informal workers who monetize other people's laziness. DPG never intended this, but the incentive was there from the first scan. The machine maker wants scans per minute. The retailer wants zero downtime and full reimbursement. DPG wants every bottle registered and every deposit cleared. The consumer wants the voucher. Each actor follows the same 25-cent signal, but for different reasons.
Follow a single 0.5-liter plastic cola bottle. It leaves the bottling plant with a DPG code printed on the label. At that moment, the producer records a deposit liability of 25 cents against that bottle in the clearing system. The bottle is packed into crates and shipped to a distribution center. The distributor pays the producer the wholesale price, plus 25 cents for the deposit.
A supermarket buys the crate and pays the distributor plus 25 cents per bottle. The bottle sits on a shelf. A customer picks it up and pays the store the beverage price plus 25 cents. The deposit has now moved through 4 hands: producer, distributor, retailer, consumer, without any bottle being returned. It is a chain of IOUs. Then the customer drinks the cola. The bottle is empty. The beverage is gone. The 25-cent credit remains attached to that barcode. If the customer throws the bottle in a home bin, the credit stops. The consumer loses the refund. The money does not vanish. It stays inside the deposit clearing loop, held as a liability until the bottle either returns or the system accounts for it. The store that sold the bottle has already passed the 25 cents upstream.
So if the bottle is never returned, the consumer is the one who paid and never redeemed. The producer and the clearinghouse are left with an unredeemed deposit. That is the wound in the system. Not every bottle comes back, but most do. The customer, instead of throwing it away, carries the empty bottle back to any supermarket. At the entrance, she inserts it into a reverse vending machine. The machine rotates the bottle. A camera and laser read the barcode and the DPG security features. It compares the code against the central registry in milliseconds. If the code is registered and the container shape matches, the machine accepts it. It crushes the bottle with a hydraulic press. A voucher for 25 cents prints. The customer takes the voucher to the register. The retailer scans it and hands over 25 cents. That payout is not a gift. The retailer's clearing account with DPG now shows a refund of 25 cents for that container. If the customer bought the bottle elsewhere, DPG transfers the deposit credit from the original retailer's chain to the returning retailer's chain. The barcode is the proof of origin. No physical cash moves between stores.
The clearing system nets millions of these transactions daily. This is where the system shows its true shape. It is a nationwide payment network for waste. The bottle is not just recycled, it is settled. But the machinery is not frictionless. A bottle with a torn label or a damaged barcode may read as unknown. The machine rejects it. The customer then faces a choice: throw it away and lose 25 cents, or stand at the service desk and argue. Some machines also reject containers with a high deposit from reusable systems because they are not part of the single-use clearing. A reusable beer bottle with an 8-cent deposit cannot be redeemed at a single-use machine. It must go back through the brewery's own bottle pool. This drives the legal distinction home. Single-use and reusable are 2 separate economies sharing the same word, deposit. The 25-cent amount is not arbitrary. It is the mandatory price for single-use. Reusable amounts are lower because the bottle has a second life as a reusable vessel. Single-use has no second life. Its value is only in the refund. That is why the machine crushes it. The bottle is not washed and refilled. It is compacted and sent to a recycler.
The deposit on single-use does not create reuse. It creates return. That is a subtle but enormous difference. The 25 cents pays for the act of bringing the bottle back, not for the bottle itself. The bottle is then sold as scrap PET or aluminum. The recycler pays market price per ton. The clearing system does not care about that secondary commodity value. The deposit and the material value are separate. Meanwhile, the expansion on 1 January 2024 pulled more containers into the single-use system. Some producers had to redesign labels, register barcodes, and adjust cash flows. For a small beverage maker, tying up 25 cents per unit in deposit liabilities across hundreds of thousands of bottles is a real working capital cost. The deposit floats in the clearing system until returns happen. That can take weeks or months. If returns are lower than expected, the producer may face a residual deposit balance. The system forces even small players to participate. Large retailers face a different pain. They must maintain machines, pay electricity, handle rejected containers, and manage queues. The law says they must take back containers, but it does not make it profitable.
The profit is indirect. Foot traffic, customer loyalty, the ability to sell deposit beverages at all. A retailer that refuses to take back empties risks fines and legal action. The pressure is real. At the height of a Saturday afternoon, a single supermarket return zone can process thousands of containers. Machines overheat. Bins fill with crushed plastic. The air smells of stale cola and aluminum. A customer slams a rejected bottle against the machine. The service light flashes. The queue grows. The store manager calls the machine vendor. The vendor logs in remotely, sees a barcode mismatch, and updates the registry. The machine accepts the next bottle. The queue moves. This is not a recycling story. It is an operational conflict between a legal obligation and physical reality. And yet, the system holds. The clearing continues. The vouchers print. The empty bottles become bales. The deposit credits move from account to account. The 25-cent debt is honored millions of times a day. But not every debt is honored. The bottles that never come back sit in the clearing as an unresolved question. Who keeps the money? The answer is not simple. The consumer forfeits it.
The retailer has already passed it upstream. The producer and DPG hold a liability that may never be called. In accounting terms, unredeemed deposits become a liability inside the clearing system. The consumer has no claim. The exact allocation is governed by DPG's rules. What matters for the street is that the bottle has lost its refund. Suppliers of beverage cans and PET bottles also feel the system. A can that enters the deposit stream has to meet certain material standards for detection and recycling. The DPG registry includes material codes. A can made from unregistered aluminum alloy may be rejected. This pushes packaging producers to standardize. The deposit has reshaped the entire beverage packaging supply chain, not just the consumer end. That is the scale of the mechanism. A 25-cent coin at the checkout coerces bottlers, can makers, label printers, distributors, retailers, machine vendors, recyclers, and millions of consumers into a single synchronized loop.
Germany did not solve the litter problem by asking people to care. It solved it by giving the empty bottle a price. That is the odd lesson of the deposit system. The environment improved not because shoppers became virtuous, but because the bottle became money. The 25-cent deposit is a legal invention that changed the physics of disposal. A bottle in a bin is no longer just waste, it is a lost refund. A bottle on a park bench is not litter, it is an unclaimed coupon. This reframing is total. It reaches into the design of labels, the sensors in machines, the accounts of clearinghouses, and the habits of millions. The bottle does not return because the system is convenient. It returns because the system pays. And the payment is not a subsidy. It is the return of a debt the consumer already paid. That circularity is the mechanism's core. The deposit starts as a surcharge and ends as a refund, but only if the packaging completes the loop. The loop itself is the product. DPG does not sell bottles, it sells settlement. The reverse vending machine does not care about recycling, it cares about verification. The retailer does not want empties, it wants clearance.
Every actor is pulled by the same 25-cent gravity, and the strange result is a nationwide apparatus that treats an empty container as a financial instrument with an expiration date of never, until it is crushed. But the truth qualifier remains. The 25-cent rule is not universal. A wine bottle has no mandatory deposit. A reusable beer bottle carries 8 or 15 cents, not 25. A milk container might have entered the system only in 2024. The German bottle deposit is not a single law applied to all packaging. It is a boundary that moves, expanding when loopholes appear and contracting when lobbyists resist. That boundary is a map of political economy, drawn at 25-cent intervals. The most haunting part is not the money, it is the habit. Germans do not think of the bottle as trash, they think of it as a returnable. The machine reinforces the habit with a beep and a receipt. Somewhere in Berlin at 1 in the morning, a collector pushes a shopping cart along a street. He reaches into a public bin and pulls out a crushed plastic bottle. He checks the label for the DPG mark. The mark is there. He drops it into his bag.
Later, he feeds bottles into a reverse vending machine one by one. The machine clicks, crushes, and prints a voucher for 25 cents per bottle. He is not recycling out of conscience. He is clearing a debt. The bottle is empty. The debt is not. The clearing ledger does not know midnight. The machine hums. So the question that lingers is not whether deposit systems work, it is what else could carry a price after its use is gone.
If an empty bottle can become a 25-cent bearer instrument, what other objects in our lives are one legal mark away from becoming collateral? What else are we already paying for twice? Once for the thing, and once for the right to give it back?